Hello, Express Entry Law Group members. This is Mark Holtby, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, welcoming you back to this edition of the Express Entry Live Q&A right here live on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group that I have founded. I am going to wait a few minutes here as it usually takes time for these live videos to start to appear on people's timelines, but now I'm starting to see people connect. So we'll maybe let a few more people connect in here, and then we'll start with the substance of the video. I wanted to express appreciation to everybody who had a chance to participate in if I just share my screen here, let's see if I can, which one I've got here. Yeah, right here. So within our group, I haven't changed the screen yet, but we just closed off an amazing round of Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guides sale. So 60% off is what I offered, and there were a ton of you that took advantage of that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all those people, and those of you who have done it, share your experience. Oh, let's get rid of this because obviously that is in the way. So we'll get rid of that one there. So make sure that you go in and if you've used the guide and had a chance to test it out, share your experience with the members of the group so that people know that it's not some scam by Mark to line his pockets with money. It's actually designed to help you guys. And for such a small amount compared to what's in it, well, yeah, it's definitely a labor of love. Okay. So as people are, it looks like more and more people are connecting, which is awesome. I wanted to, just let you know today, as you can see right here, is the work history day. So today's the day where it's all focused on work history in all its forms. I'm going to talk a little bit about the minimum requirements so that everybody understands the baseline that we're working from. So what are the minimum requirements that IRCC wants? And then we're going to go through and take a look at some of the more challenging aspects, which if you look at the poll, and let's see if we can find our poll. I'm not even sure how far down the list it is these days. I didn't pin it. So I guess theoretically, if people are actually responding to it, it shouldn't be too far down the timeline. But I want to show you guys this. Like, just look at this. You can see how far I have to scroll. So when you post questions like this and you tag me, even when you tag me, sometimes I can't get it. I don't see it. So here's our past one. Here's some information that I shared. Hopefully we're getting closer. Wow. Okay. I was looking for comments. We are getting closer. Let's see if I can find it here. All right, there's a nice little message I gave the other day. You guys know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for our poll. And let's see, I don't think I've skipped past it. See, this is crazy because I know that poll got a lot of engagement because I asked you to tell me what your most difficult aspects of Express Entry were and then vote on it. And there it is. Wow. Can you imagine how far? Well, you can see how long it took me. So with a group that's over 121,000 members, it's impossible for me to get in there and actually have the ability to respond to everybody's question. It's just physically impossible. So here's the poll that I created, and I ask you to share with me the worst parts of Express Entry. And you can see right at the top, work experience is number one. Then we've got language testing, which absolutely for many of you it is. Proof of funds, the waiting game. So this is awesome. Someone created this one. And then non-accompanying spouses had a few votes. But you can see all the different areas: education, medicals, reuniting with families. And so, and then on the right here, you can see the numbers. So work experience is 139. And then language testing is a close second at 120. I think it might be worthwhile to have my friend Chris Enders maybe jump on again and share some tips and strategies in a live video with you guys. Just on navigating the IELTS exam and the CELPIP, if that's the test that you're trying to write. So based on this, it gives me a good indication of where some of the troubling spots are with Express Entry. So that is the poll. So see if you can find it. And you know what? Maybe I will make this poll. I'll mark it as an announcement. And then I'm going to scroll. Woo! That's a long ways up there. So I'll mark it as an announcement. I'm going to unpin this and actually I can probably even delete that one now because this sale has come to an end. So I'm going to delete this, get rid of it. Yep, we don't need that post anymore. And of course, here's our live one. Great. And you can see right up at the top, and on your phone, you'll see this as well, announcements. Well, I've got like 19 because every EE Live Q&A that I do, I put up here. But the poll, I'm going to pin that to the top. So now that poll, if you haven't voted, go in and vote. And there's an ability for you to actually add a different topic. So adaptability is here, and we've got a couple people who are interested in that. So you can see this is all designed to help me know what the most difficult aspects of Express Entry all of you are experiencing. And what I'm going to do is, within this right here, I'll show you quick. I think everybody can still see my screen. Here's where you log in to my step-by-step guide. Within my step-by-step guide, I have all aspects of the whole process, EAPR profile, uploading your documents, and then I have a member resource section that is full of videos, full of topics. And so all of these videos down here, I'm going to create some new ones that are just specifically targeted to address these most difficult aspects that you guys are talking about here. Now, I already have a lot of these, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to take a look at some of them. And some of these I know that are new. So I do have a video especially for non-accompanying spouses. In fact, I actually show you how to fill out the forms if you're choosing to go that route and list a spouse as non-accompanying. So that is what this guide is all about. I make it better and better every year. Because of the responses that I get from you guys. You guys are a great source of information. Okay, well, I'll also show you one other thing, which most of you probably know. If someone does not answer questions, as you can see here, but they've been invited by one of you, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and I'll approve them. So just for future reference, if you are inviting friends to join, I love that. That's great to share the love, share the group with them. But if someone just applies without being invited and doesn't answer any of those questions, I don't include them. And you can see if we were to go into the group insights and actually the moderators and just see all the activity, you'll see that there's a bunch of people that are declined, because they haven't answered the questions. And how do I know? If they can't even take the time to answer the questions, then maybe there's some bot that's just, some spammer. And so that in that way, we can make sure that the people in the group are genuinely interested in immigrating to Canada and becoming a part of this awesome community that we've developed. Okay. There we go. So I'm going to shift now. And like I said, we are going today to focus on right here, work history. I've got a bunch of questions that people have sent in. And today, because we've got lots of questions, if you sent something in that was not related to work history, I'm not going to cover it in the emailed topics. But once I get through this and we answer those questions, and then I have my little teaching moment, because I'm going to start off with work history. I'm going to teach you guys a few things. Then I'm going to answer the email questions, and then I'm going to open it up to all of you guys who are so patient and are participating live, because I love you guys the most, who make huge sacrifices to be here. Okay, so this is the beginning, and I'm going to actually get rid of my banner images here so that there's nothing blocking off the screen when I'm trying to do this. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to try something here. I'm going to change my screen, and I'm going to blow this up. And yeah, looks like it's working. That's great. Okay, so basically right here is the way Express Entry was, and I'm going to change this one more little step. Nice. There we go. Isn't this a happy family? They are so happy. Do you know why these people are so happy? Because they applied for permanent residence to Canada before Express Entry was created. And they were so happy and overjoyed because once they met the eligibility requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, they didn't have to compete with everybody else. So even though Dad here is probably in his late 40s, the reality is he didn't have to worry about his age points being worth virtually nothing because he had good work experience and language and other things. But the world's all changed. And the reality is now this is usually what most of my consults are like. You guys only contact me when you're really stuck. So appreciate this. I'm not like some some lightweight representative, lightweight consultant out there who knows just enough to be able to answer questions from what they've read from the government website. I'm not like that. So people don't just come to me, and I don't just turn people away when I don't understand their question. I literally try to answer everyone's question. And when people book consults, I tackle every issue that they throw at me. But after Express Entry was created, guys, the rules changed. It has become really, really difficult. The smallest little mistakes can result in rejection, but even just navigating your way through everything can become super complicated. So there's me, usually most of the time, saying, hey man, I'm sorry, you should have contacted me a year ago, or you should have just hired me first to get it done right the first time versus getting your application rejected. And now your CRS score is too low and it's never going to drop down to 420 points like it did before when you applied. So that's the reality. And so a lot of clients are like this. So my question for you guys is, and comment below and let me know where you're from and comment. And this is the question that I want you to answer. Have you felt like one of these people? So right here and here, not these guys. Well, maybe some of you do feel like these guys, but the reality is like these or like him. If you felt like that, frustrated, confused, comment below. I want to hear what people's experiences are like. Okay. And remember, if you do have a question or a comment, just in terms of as it relates to work history for Express Entry, hold off because your time will come later in the video. Okay, so here is the biggest question that I experience all the time. What do you do if you can't get the reference letter? So I'm going to put you guys, I'm going to keep it suspended here. And I'm going to flip back and see people are probably saying, Mark, whoa, what the reference letter? We need to do that. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you if I can find my mouse here. Wow, what's going on here? There's my mouse. I was trying to find my mouse. Right off the bat, what you need to focus on is eligibility. So we're going to go to the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which is most of you guys out there. The Federal Skilled Worker Program is all driven by work. And so you have to prove that you have work experience to qualify. And so if we scroll down here, and maybe I'll make this just a little bit bigger so that everybody can see it a little bit better. When it comes to work experience, these are the main requirements, okay? So you have to have a skilled job. It has to be skill type 0, A, or B. Like most of you know, if your skill is skill level C, it doesn't count. Skill level D doesn't count. And that all comes from the National Occupational Classification System. And you have to show that you have performed the duties set out in the lead statement and all of the essential and most of the main duties listed. So let's just quickly, I wasn't going to do this, but let's just quickly open it up just for those who are new to this. Here's the National Occupational Classification. I'm just going to type in lawyer just for fun. Okay, what is a lawyer? Like, sure, anybody can represent people, to do immigration, right? You can be a consultant, you can be whatever you want. But what's the difference between a lawyer and a consultant? Well, it comes down to the employment requirements. 2 or 3 years of undergraduate study, good luck. You might as well have your degree before you can even qualify. Bachelor's degree from a law school, then you got to complete the bar exams. Then you have to complete a period of articling, which is usually about a year. And then maybe if you're lucky, you can get licensing. So there you go. So that's for lawyers. But you know what, guys? We don't care about employment requirements. Right off the bat, these employment requirements do not apply to you if you're outside of Canada, determining whether or not you can claim your work experience. So that's tip number 1. Education is irrelevant. If you are working as an accountant in your country and you've completed, as it says in this right here, if you have performed the duties set out in the lead statement of the occupational description in the NOC and all the essential duties and most of the main duties listed, then you're going to be able to claim that work experience from a job description standpoint. So these are the duties for a lawyer. You can see here, it says, I'm going to flip back here again, right there. It says, and sometimes people don't understand what this is. It includes all the essential duties and most of the main duties listed. So what are all of the essential duties and what are the main duties? It's not listed anywhere. Well, a lawyer is a perfect example here. So you can see all these things that are required right there. Those are the essential duties. And if we go back here again, most of the main duties, anything that is got a may in front of it, may means it's not essential. So that's a good way of determining. Some NOCs have it, some don't. But these are the duties. And it says most of the main duties, which the regulations actually state a substantial number of those duties, which I usually equate to around 75%. But it could be higher, could be lower, but you get the gist, okay? So we can close that off. That's the basis. You need to be able to do that. Education is irrelevant. So let's see, what is it? What is actual skilled work experience? What does it contain? What do you have to prove? Well, you have to choose that it's within your primary NOC, it has to be the same type of job. So it has to be the same NOC code, all right? So remember, this is eligibility. So I'll move on from here, but it has to be in the same type of job. And this is to meet the minimum eligibility requirements for the Federal Skilled Worker Program right here. So this is to become eligible, all right? So don't confuse this with the comprehensive ranking system. They're two separate things. They do encompass the same types of things, but generally speaking, this is what drives the ship. So if we go back here again, and you can see same type of job, it has to have occurred in the last 10 years. It has to be paid. We don't care what you're paid. I guess if you're an astrophysicist and you're being paid the equivalent of $100 a month, maybe in your country that's the prevailing wage rate. Maybe it is. But if you're being paid $100 in Canada, well, not only is that illegal, but they're probably going to question whether you were really working as an astrophysicist or the janitor sweeping the floor in the astrophysicist operation. Okay, so paid work experience. And here's an important thing. Volunteer work or unpaid internships don't count. All right. Then this is where people often get confused. At least 1 year of continuous work experience, which totals 1,560 hours or at least 30 hours a week. That's the minimum. Some of you may be working like dogs and you may accumulate 1,560 hours within 6 months, let alone a year. Well, no, you can't count that. You have to actually have worked for the full year continuous right there. If you have breaks in between, and we can debate over how much is too much. I'm not going to get into that, at least right at this stage, but it must be 1 year continuous full-time work experience. You can see here, full-time at one job, an equal amount in part-time work. So in other words, you work part-time for the same employer, at least 15 hours a week for 24 months to get your full 1 year, or full-time at more than one job. So maybe you work multiple positions. Maybe you have two employers that you're working for at the same time. You work for one in the morning, one in the afternoon, both of them 15 hours, totaling at least 30 hours. That works as well. Okay. And you can see here for part-time work, you can work more or less than 15 hours a week, as long as it adds up to 1,560 hours. And that actually allows for quite a bit of discretion. And when it comes to filing your application, if you're in this situation where you didn't work 15 hours at least every week, then you've got some room to negotiate, to explain how, averaged out, it works out to that. And you can see here, we don't count any hours you work above 30 hours. So once again, you can't claim 2 years of work experience in 1 year because you're working 60 hours a week. Even though, I could have probably 30, 60, 90, I could have almost claimed 3 times. I was working about 80 hours a week when I started doing my articles of clerkship with one of the national firms. Oh my goodness, it was busy. All right, so there's the overview. That's what we're looking at there, okay? So next thing we're gonna look at here is we're gonna click on this, which is at the completeness check stage. I'm actually gonna find this again. So if you go to, we'll scroll up. And remember, there's people here that have already know a lot of this, and that some people, this is new to them. This is the site. You can just search for this. This is the source of all goodness for express entry. This is when you're answering questions within the group that relate to documents. I want you guys darn well to link back to this every single time when you've got new people joining the group. Don't assume they understand. Don't give lazy, goofy answers that say yes or no. Always support it. Okay? So here's the explanation. So you scroll down here, and basically I'm going to pull it up again. There's an explanation for almost every type of document. We're focusing on proof of work experience right here. And you can see that these are mandatory documents to support your work experience. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger so that it's a little bit easier to see. Okay? And this is where the reference letter comes in. So it has to be from an employer. It needs to be an official document on their letterhead, include your name, the company's contact information, and the name and title and signature of your immediate supervisor or personnel officer at the company. So it could be the HR manager. It doesn't necessarily have to be your immediate supervisor. It just has to be someone who knows that you worked for them and can attest that your duties and everything that you performed were what you say they were. Then it should indicate in this letter all positions held while employed at the company. So what usually I attribute that is if you have multiple positions that you've progressed through, you can include all of those in one letter. Now, when you put that in and you enter it in as separate jobs within the work history of your profile, when you're submitting it, it will eventually, once you get your ITA and your EAPR is being completed and your personal document checklist is being generated, it will generate a separate spot for every separate work history that you list. Well, if your work histories are all with the same company, you can get one letter, upload it 3 times, and you're done. All right. So what does the letter need to contain? Now look at this. Must include. This isn't discretionary. This isn't a situation where they say, oh, if you've got time or if it's convenient or if the employer's cooperative, these aren't a list of suggestions. These are musts. And what that means is if you don't prove it, an officer has the ability to maybe accept something in lieu of these or reject your application as being insufficient and unable to prove your work history. So must include means must include, not may include or should. It's must or shall, okay? Absolutes. So what are they? Job title, duties and responsibilities, job status, which basically means are you still working there, or if you're still working there, then it's going to say from February 1st, 2015 until present. That's usually how we describe that. If not, then the dates worked for the company. So start date, end date. Number of work hours per week, which is often missing from your reference letters, and annual salary plus benefits, which is also often missing, as well as, I guess I should add, job duties. So job duties, number of hours worked, and the salary are the 3 ones that we see missing more than anything else. So that's what your obligation is. So now it comes to what I was sharing with you before, and I'm going to shift back to it right now. What to do if you can't get a reference letter? Well, right off the bat, guys, don't take this requirement lightly. Just like I indicated in the previous, when we're looking at the requirements here, you do not have the option. This does not say right here that you could, if it's convenient, include this information. This is mandatory. So don't take it lightly. Otherwise, and maybe some of you who are watching this live can comment below if you've had problems with your reference letter being rejected because you missed something. All right. Okay. Next, you must find a way to prove each of the things required in the reference letter. And each of those things are exactly what I showed you here. Okay. So this is where you've got your job title, duties, responsibilities, all of those things. That's what we're referring to. Okay. Then next, think outside the box, all right? Every application is different. Every officer is different. And so you need to be creative. No 2 people are the same. There is no list of documents that's comprehensive that applies to everybody's situation. You may have something different than someone else that you could include that could replace maybe the fact they don't list your hours worked per week, or that they don't list your wage, which is mandatory, or one of the more common ones, the duties aren't listed. Okay. And then the last thing that I think this is the last thing. Yeah, it is. The last thing on my list is that third-party documents are always better than self-serving attestations. So the most important part for you is that you realize that if you have something generated from your company, then that is far better than you making a statement yourself. And obviously, self-serving statements, like I said there, attestations, they're just not going to give them much weight at all, almost to the point of just ignoring them. But don't confuse that with a letter of explanation, which you can provide at the beginning to help an officer see how the alternative documents that you're providing are going to be used to replace or substitute those missing pieces of information that normally would have been included in a complete, perfect reference letter. All right? So what are the alternatives? And you guys can keep track of this list, whatever you want. Your list could be more expansive, but this is just to kind of get the juices flowing. And every time I have a new client and we run into these issues, this is why consultations are so important, because we talk about everything. They describe their work. They describe how they were employed, how they got the job, if they've moved to different countries for the company. We canvass all of those things and then comprise a list of alternatives that work specifically for that person. So one size does not fit all. And that's what irritates me so bad on the internet, by people posting these lists that say, oh, this is exactly what you need. Well, if you blindly follow it, maybe you're missing out on a whole bunch of other things that would work better than their stupid little list. And that's why it really irritates me. Okay. Number one, what does your job offer say? Your offering letter, the letter that started your employment relationship. Job postings. How did you find out about the job? Was there a job posting somewhere that actually has a job description that you originally applied to before you started the position? Well, that's going to carry weight. Are there internal company job descriptions that can be attached to your reference letter? What about pay stubs? Do you have those? Bank statements showing the deposits. If you don't have the pay stubs, were the funds deposited into your bank account? How did your relationship with the company end? Did you resign? Was there a termination letter? That can help as well. Letters from other visa applications. Did your company transfer you to another country? Did you have to go to the US on an intercompany transfer? Well, that letter is pretty persuasive because it was presented to the US immigration authorities. And then employment letters. Sometimes people will get employment letters for financing. Maybe they're going to get a mortgage in their home country to buy a home. And there's a letter that they get from the company for the purposes of that financial institution. Okay. And you can see kind of where I'm going here, right, guys? Okay, an email from HR confirming that they do not provide detailed reference letters. I put this here because it's one thing for you to say, sorry, IRCC, I can't get a letter because the company won't give it to me. And another to include with that statement an email from the human resource manager in the company that says, we have a policy, we do not give those letters. All right, have you been promoted? And actually, I'm not sure if I got on the list, but did you have a performance evaluation? Is there something where you met, for a semi-annual performance evaluation? Is there documentation for that? Your income tax returns. So in the US, do you have W-2s? Canada, T4s. Your country will probably also have annual returns that show how much employment taxes are being remitted to the government on your behalf. Letters of commendation or recognition. Did you win an award as being the best employee of the month? Okay. And then, of course, the obvious employment contracts. And then, yes, I do have performance appraisals and reviews here. And then the records of employment. So in Canada, we have something called an ROE. When you end your employment, the company has to provide that for you for tax purposes. All right. Failing all of those, and this is something that people talk about a lot, you can get a statutory declaration or a sworn statement from someone who can, other than you, remember, this is a different person who can attest to your work history. And the way that you do that is by actually, let me just put it this way. I have an order of priority. So some people providing a statutory declaration carry more weight than others. So if you had a subordinate, someone that worked underneath you. So one of the people within your team that you supervised writing the letter for you, writing that statutory declaration, I can tell you that that's not going to carry as much weight as the boss of the company who does it and says, our company has a policy of not issuing reference letters, but in my personal capacity as the CEO of the company, I can confirm that, Manpreet Singh has worked for me for this period of time and everything, all of those components that we needed in the reference letter. You get the picture. So here's my order of priority. This is my hierarchy. So first, an immediate supervisor working with the company. Yes, that's a person that's in a great position to do it. An HR manager or personnel officer with the company, obviously. Then a coworker still working with the company. Why am I saying working with the company? Because maybe your immediate supervisor is no longer with the company. Well, they still have knowledge of what you did for that company. Or maybe a coworker that's no longer with the company. And you can see each of these progressively gets lesser and lesser in strength, I guess. And then finally, if all else fails, consider getting an email from a past supervisor or coworker with a business card. So if you can't get a sworn statement, then get anything you can get your hands on, even if it's just an email. And at this stage, understand with all of this, guys, that the onus on you is to prove these things. You are the one who has to provide this. And if you can't provide it, then understand if you can't get a reference letter that provides these things, then there's a chance an officer might be difficult and say, I'm not going to accept your work experience that you're claiming. All right. Whew, that was quite a bit. It took a while, but it was important for me to share all of this with you. Okay. And the reason that I wanted to take that time to explain is that everybody has a foundation of understanding where we're coming from with this, because there's so much misinformation out there on the internet, so many people offering their own personal experience, which may have worked for them. And I don't discount the fact that maybe they did things a certain way and got their application approved and are now a permanent resident of Canada. But understand that does not make them an authority on the topic. They may have got an officer that was just lazy, didn't pay close attention, didn't do their due diligence, and allowed something to skate by, essentially to pass through and get approved when 9 other officers would have caught it and refused it. And then that person, because they're a permanent resident now, all of you are like, oh, permanent resident. Oh, permanent resident. We worship you. You must know everything there is to know. Please give us your step-by-step list. Seriously? Okay, I'll let that go. But the reality is you have to be able to go to the sources of information and understand really what is required and what isn't. It's helpful to know what other people have done as examples that you could consider. It's always good to collaborate and share information. Well, what did you do? But never accept what someone else has done as being the actual law. Okay, so be aware of that. Don't fall into that trap, because the internet is absolutely flooded with these perceived experts who have done it themselves and then figure they know everything about it, and they're just destroying people's lives. And guys, immigration changes, laws change, policies change. In the upcoming Express Entry, on the panel that I'm speaking at our National Immigration Conference in Winnipeg for the Canadian Bar Association, I'm on the panel, the Express Entry panel, with the government officers and with 2 other lawyers. And we're talking about Express Entry. It evolves, it changes. What was policy last year, they may tighten something up or change something. And if you're relying on past practice, danger, danger. It could completely destroy your opportunity and ability to immigrate to Canada because of one simple mistake that you didn't even realize was a mistake. Okay, all right, we've spent enough time here. I'm going to jump now over here and I'm going to take a look at this live video. I'm going to turn my audio down and I'm going to see what we've got here for comments. So people are already posting. That's great. Oh, there's one. Ahmed says, damn yes. Okay, great. Amy's New York. Kogler is Turkey. Very cool. Bonus says, yes, still feeling the same. And this is where I said, hey, do you guys feel like those guys I talked about? So I appreciate you posting your your comments here. Bonus says, yes, still feeling the same. Okay. All right, so let's move on now. At this stage, it's the time and opportunity for me to read the questions that were sent in via email. And here's the first one. This one's from Harshi. And Harshi says, I was an international student under a postgraduate 2-year program. I started my co-op in the 4th semester, September 5th to December 14th, 2018. So basically, the last part of school was a co-op. It was a paid co-op, they say. And the ultimate question was, can I count co-op work experience for the purposes of, in this case, Canadian work experience? So this is co-op work experience essentially for the Canadian experience class. So I'm going to shift over here, and I pulled this one up special, and you can see right here is eligibility for the Canadian experience class, express entry. And generally speaking, this is the same rules when you're trying to claim Canadian work experience, which is the case for Harshi. Okay, so if you go down here, and it's actually very clearly stated, and in this case, I'm 100% on board with IRCC. Self-employment, yep, you can't count that for Canadian work experience. Work experience gained while you were a full-time student. And what do they have here? Such as a co-op work term. Often co-op students are paid, but it's still a part of work experience gained while you were a full-time student. So the answer here doesn't count under this program, okay? So if you're outside of Canada and you're working and you're doing a co-op term while you're going to school, it's paid, totally fine. But in Canada, on a study permit, you can't count it as Canadian work experience. Not until you actually transition to your post-grad work permit. Okay, great question, Harshi. Okay, Ajitha, she had 2 questions. One was proof of funds and one was work experience, but I'm just going to deal with the work experience. So Ajitha says, I have almost 11 months gap between my current and previous employment. However, I'm just claiming points for the current employment. Will this lead to more? I'm not quite sure what more is, but I think what she's asking is a big gap of 11 months. Well, ultimately, it doesn't matter. You're only going to list in your work history section the work that you want to claim points for. If you've got an 11-month gap between work histories, well, if you've already met these minimum requirements here, so we go back here to the explanation. If you already have at least 1 year of continuous work fulfilling all of these requirements, then you've met the eligibility threshold. Once you've got that met, you can claim whatever kind of work experience you want. As long as it's skilled and it meets these requirements, it does not have to be continuous anymore. So, Ajitha, you could count that previous work experience if you wanted to. That was, prior to your 11th month gap. You could count that if you wanted to, if you needed to. But if you've got at least 3 years of skilled work experience, and just without getting into the whole, explanation about federal skilled worker program, if you met the federal eligibility requirements for the federal skilled worker program with only 3 years of work experience, then you're only going to claim points under the comprehensive ranking system under express entry with three years of foreign work experience. Anything more, you're not getting any more points. So, food for thought. Okay. Jan says, thank you very much for the amazing work that you've been doing up to now. I just hope you can answer one of my questions. I can, Jan, and I will. I'm currently working in the government sector in a NOC-C job. Okay, we know that. NOC-C doesn't count. And so right here, NOC-C isn't on the list. So that doesn't count. And she knows this, okay? Or Jan knows this. However, since the last 2 years, I'm working part-time in a small company in NOC 2173, so IT world there, and I'm being paid cash in hand because I'm a government employee. So in other words, he's working under the table, I guess. I guess the government doesn't like people working maybe on the side, holding other part-time jobs. The company doesn't have its own website. Okay, that's not great. But they told me they can issue me a reference as per CIC, including all the necessary info. Well, that's fine. The answer, Jan, he says, how can I proceed to claim points in my situation? Well, you know what's required. We go back here and you can see you have to show that you have at least been working 15 hours, or if it's part-time, that it averages out to 1,560 hours. And if you needed the 1 full year, you're going to have to work 2 years at part-time to get the 1 year full-time. And so in your situation, you put your best foot forward. Just like I explained in the video here, there's other things. If, when it comes to the requirements, all that the government is asking for is that you provide a reference letter, okay? Now, when you get to your personal document checklist at the EAPR stage, it does say provide pay stubs if available. And if you're working in Canada here, then they like to see the T4 tax slips. Okay, so you can go through the process and assess what you have and what you don't have, and then look outside the box to determine what might work for the purposes of meeting anything that you don't have. But in this case, there's nothing prohibiting it. But if an officer, they have to be able to verify, and if they call and talk to the company or send an email, or they reach out to the supervisor who issued the letter and they're satisfied, then that's great. If there's a nice website that has the picture of your supervisor signing the letter, that has a very clear breakdown of the employees working there, heck, if you were on the website yourself, your picture, well, that's pretty conclusive. The officer really gives that a lot of weight. If there's no website, no online presence for the business, then officers start to wonder, is this made up? Because it's easy to fake a letter. Okay? All right. Simran says, Dear Sir, I would like to put up my question for your live Q&A session. My question is as follows. What if we have 3 years work experience, but not for continuous 1 year, and there is 1 day break in employment after 11 months, 20 days? Okay. 1 day break. Okay. So as far as continuous, I need more information, but remember, the minimum requirements are that you have to have at least 1 year of continuous work. So that's full stop. Now, can you have a paid vacation? Yeah, if it's paid and you've got a 2-week vacation, you can take that. That's not an issue. That's not considered a break. If you take a leave of absence or you are actually laid off and you're not being paid, then yeah, that an officer could continue that as being a break in employment and therefore not meeting the 1 year continuous work. But if you've got a day, and if what you're talking here is 1 day break, well, if it's only a 1 day break, I don't consider that a problem. If you're continuing to work in the same job, same knock, but you are now, and in terms of the employer you're working for, you're just switching to another employer, then I would still consider that continuous and I would make my submission accordingly. It's always up to an officer to decide whether or not they're going to accept it, but I can tell you I would advocate for it. Now, if you were 11 months and 20 days and you just didn't meet the 1 year, remember, it doesn't matter if you've got 3,000 hours in that 1 year period, it has to be for the full 1 year continuous work. Okay? All right, good question. Okay, next one is Suvansh. And Suvansh says, Hi, Mark. Thank you for all your efforts you put in for answering our queries. I have one query which has never been touched upon. Ooh, never. I am a seafarer applying for EE. My knock category is 2273. Okay, I know that's a skill level B. Seafarer only work on contract basis 6 months on and 6 months off in a year. I've been working with my employer for 3 years, but my actual work experience is only 18 months, divided into 6 months every year. Do I consider it my work experience since I haven't worked continuous for 1 year? Suvansh, I have routinely told my clients, the onus is on you to establish that you have this, that you've worked the 1 year continuous. If you can't prove it, then you're likely not getting through the gate. And it's as simple as that. So it's harsh that your industry, seafaring, is built on that type of a work, 6 months on, 6 months off. But the reality is, if you are not being paid in those 6 months off and you're not working, then it's highly, highly likely an officer will not accept that and you won't meet the minimum eligibility to get into the express entry pool. All right. Okay, guys, great. Those are awesome, awesome questions. I'm going to, and here I've had that up. I'm going to shift back here. Wow. See, you guys are so patient because you're like watching the duplication here. All along, I'm like showing you and I don't even have the right screen visible. That's all right. You guys can sort it out. All right. So you just have to listen to what I'm saying, not so much what I'm sharing. Because as always, I'm the videographer. I'm doing everything. Stephanie's helping me out here on the side. Actually, she should have come in and knocked on the door and said, Mark, you're not showing your screen. But that's okay. We'll work on that. Okay. So now's the time where you can actually post your questions here for me. Okay. So Let's see. Questions related to work experience is the primary ones that I want to go for. But because you guys are watching live and you're being good sports, I am totally fine with answering pretty much any express entry question that you want for the remaining 15 minutes here of our EE Live Q&A. All right, so you can post them below. Okay, Kishan says, nice to see you. Great job. Okay, so you guys can start posting your questions now. Okay, Samrat has got like an essay here. Samrat. See, Samrat's on the ball. See, what he did here is he probably wrote it out, then copied it, and he was just waiting to paste it into the comments. Or he already put it in his comment, and then he was just getting ready to hit enter the moment I said green light. Okay, awesome. Okay, let's respond to Samrat's question. Okay, regarding the reference letter, my company does not and will not give me the letter as is exactly required by CIC. I, however, was able to get a letter stating my current duties, same as past duties, due to some educational requirement. I'm working with the same company and under the same NOC code since December 19th, 2011. Well, that's plenty of time. I joined as an associate, promoted to senior associate, then assistant manager, and now manager. What are you, working for one of the big four accounting firms? Probably. Along with this letter, I would also be providing my appointment letter, pay slips, tax statements. Wow, you're actually asking me to go through something I would do only within a consult. Okay, yearly appraisal letters, position. As on that date, I will be applying for NOC 111, which is accountant or auditor, and looking to get CRS points based on 3 or more years. Can you let me know if I'm required to provide anything further or these things would do? Okay, to start with, Samrat, no, I can't let you know if this is a complete comprehensive list and it's all good enough. I can't do that because I need to actually look at the documents and review things in detail before I'm going to give something that I would consider a legal opinion. But based on what I shared today, you've got a really good start. And I think that a lot of the documents that you have here are very good. They're good third party. They can be attested to. They can be authenticated. And so I think you're in a good position. All right. Stella says, do you train people who want to do immigration applications? Okay, train people. I'm assuming maybe this is like a consultant or something like that. I only train people who actually work within my office as consultants or paralegals. So no, I don't just outright train people to do immigration applications. And one of the reasons, Stella, is that you need to be a certified immigration consultant. And so your training doesn't come through me unless you're one of my employees, and then you're actually working underneath me. You actually have to become a regulated immigration consultant or a lawyer to help people with their applications for a fee. And most people don't just help people for free. So if you're paid, then you have to then you have to be a regulated consultant. Okay, Aloy says, hey Mark, I'm currently working as a college lecturer. Excellent. I also double as the department hatchery caretaker. Oh, cool. Can I also apply as a hatchery manager, although my employment letter says college lecturer? Aloy, you just need to justify it. You need to be able to explain it. Ultimately, the employment letter is the only thing that matters. So if the employment letter is saying that you're a college lecturer, but your letter from the college has, well, it comes down to the duties. What are the duties listed in your letter? The title isn't everything, but it definitely is important. And what's in that letter is the only thing that's important when it comes to proving your work experience. So is it possible? Well, yeah, you just need to be able to explain how it fits. And that requires a lot of explanation and cooperation from the college. Okay. Sima says, how much it impacts if you have 10 years of work experience, but IELTS scores are 6 or 6.5 overall. Sima, 0. Unfortunately, once you have 3 years of skilled work experience from a comprehensive ranking system score, they don't care if you have 20 years of work experience. So it sucks because only younger applicants are rewarded. And so 3 years is the max. Now, under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, the eligibility for that process, there's a separate point scheme, and you need to make sure that you meet those 67 points. And so you can claim up to 6 years for that. But once you've met the 67 point threshold for the comprehensive ranking system, 3 years is all that you need. All right. Shylock says, hi, Mark. Hello. Samrat says, I understand. Charlene says, is self-employed work experience sufficient for skilled trades? That's going to be tough. Now, at the end of the day, you always make your case. And Charlene, that's a whole different topic. The requirements for the federal skilled trade program are not something that I often cover here within the Express Entry, within our Express Entry Law private Facebook group. But you just need to make sure that you can demonstrate. And so it always comes down to proving that you actually have that skilled trade experience, which is always, it's always tricky. It's always difficult when you're self-employed. Okay. Kishan says, how can I top profile aside what mentioned in website? I'm assuming you're talking about increasing your comprehensive ranking system score to increase your chances. Watch the previous episode, the very first one I did. Let's see, which one was it? Let me open this up and see here. I'll just show you guys this. This is the schedule of topics. So the top 5 things to do first, April the 25th, how to maximize your CRS score. I direct you to that one that I did on April the 25th, which you can watch right on YouTube, the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel. And that will give you some ideas on how to maximize your score. Okay, Samrat says, thanks. Shylock, stuck in the pool since September 2018 with CLB 10. I'm assuming, Shy, that you're probably, it's the age that you're losing all your points. It happens to people all the time. But CLB 10 is great. It's a good score. It just, there's a balance of all of those human capital factors. Your age, your work experience, your education, and language. Okay. Shai says, applying for graduate school in the US, should I delete the EE profile? Please advise. Once you've got a profile in there, it forms a part of the record. Immigration can see everything. They can see even when you change work history. So you enter one thing in, you delete it, and then enter another one. They can see all of it. It's all there. So once your profile is in and you go back and you make changes, all of that is there. Even if you withdraw your profile, it's a part of your immigration history. So ultimately, it, for the purposes of, applying for graduate school in the US, it doesn't matter. You can keep your profile in. It isn't going to impact on what you're doing in graduate school in the US. Okay. Kishan says, I have PR in Germany. Can I hold Canadian PR? Only if you're living in Canada. So to maintain your permanent resident status in Canada, Canada doesn't care what you're doing in another country. They could care less. All they're concerned about is, have you met the residency obligation, which is 2 years and every 5 years living in Canada. So when you get your permanent resident card and it's time to renew it 5 years later and you submit your application, can you show that you've been living physically in Canada for at least 2 years in that previous 5-year window of time? All right. Okay, Samrat says, I would be getting a consult soon as I'm moving to Toronto on June the 2nd on a seasonal COWP. I don't know what that is. I know a seasonal agricultural worker program, the SOP, but I don't know what an SO. Oh, spousal open. These acronyms. Blah. So a spousal open work permit. And you are correct. I'm with a Big Four accounting firm. Of course you are, Samrat. PwC probably, or E&Y, or Deloitte. They're all the same. Ironically, many friends I have work in-house within their legal departments, and I'm always amazed at how little support they give their own employees when it comes to applying for permanent residence to Canada. But I guess it's not in the company's advantage for you to leave and come work in Canada, but whatever. Okay. Mirza says, please answer my question. Mirza, you got to post it again because I don't go back. Shai says, I'm 31. Okay. All right, Jatin, let's see. What do you got for me here? Oh, that's quite a bit, my friend. Remember, this is focused on work history. So I've done master's in computer science, blah, blah, blah. Spouse, common, especially or physical. Okay, so this one, Jatin, is probably like a consult. So you've got a ton of information that's specifically just to your situation, and that is consult material as opposed to something that I can answer in a comment for our Facebook Live event. Let's see. She's already physically present in Canada. Okay. So yeah, I can see what you're asking here. So it's basically how you answer the questions. Yeah, you've got too many levels here, my friend, to be able to address specifically. So I'm going to pass that through. If you want to book a consult, Jatin, we can go through all of those dynamics, but you're asking about a lot of things and I do need a whole bunch more background information. I'm sorry, my friend. You need to book a consult for that. Okay, Kishan says, thank you. I appreciate it. You're very welcome. And we've got about 5 minutes left here for questions. Aloy says, how viable is the Atlantic pilot program? Once again, that's not an express entry related question. Ultimately, it's the same issue of requiring a job offer from one of those employers. The process they go through to get their own application through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program, the AIPP, is similar to an LMIA, and it's all about those job offers. Simon says, is there work permit for nurses in home health care? Well, ultimately, you need to get a company who's willing to get a labor market impact assessment for you to get a position in Canada. And whether it's healthcare or no matter what the industry is, that's the expectation. So, all right. Ali says, I'm 29, civil engineer, blah, blah, blah. Previous employer won't give me any detailed experience letter, but I do have a letter for the last 3 years. Okay, same thing, Ali, like I talked about in the previous, go back and watch the video. I gave you a whole bunch of other suggestions on how to prove work experience when you can't get a reference letter from your employer or it's somehow deficient. So I'd recommend you go back and you watch that. Samrat says your DIY is really helpful and I really appreciate your input in it with all the details and nitty gritty. Thanks, Samrat. I really appreciate that because the nitty gritty you have in your question, that's the difference between the information that you get online and the guide. The guide actually demonstrates and shows you how to do the process. I do a screen share and I walk through every aspect of the express entry process. And so nitty gritty, that's what it's all about. It's laced with nitty gritty. And people who look at it for about 2 seconds and say, oh, Mark, it's just general information anyone can get off the internet. That's garbage. Because I know the EAPR portion in particular is information that I got permission from a client and spent hours and hours redacting their private confidential information to even create it. So good luck out there. You can go out there and you can search for something similar, but it doesn't exist. All right. Okay. I think we are just about done here. Let's see if there's a couple more questions. Okay. So Shai, I can't really answer questions about PNP. Mirza says, I've done a master's in engineering, but my work experience is as school teacher. Does this work experience count? I posted again, please answer. Mirza, I actually answered that question already at the very beginning of this video. Maybe you joined a little bit late. The reality is education is irrelevant. It does not matter. As long as you're performing a substantial number of the main duties and all of the activities in the lead statement of the National Occupational Classifications profile description for, or position description for that occupation you want to work in, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. If you're actually working, your work experiences as a school teacher, well, whatever, it's irrelevant. Are you doing the duties? Raymond says, hello, Mr. Mark. My question is it easy that my cousin says that he will arrange a job offer to me under federal skilled trade? Is it easy to obtain? Oh, Ramon, I'm not even Raymond, I'm not even going to go there. As far as your cousin arranging a job offer, if they actually have their own trade shop, their own employer, and they're doing things properly, is it easy? No, it's never easy. In fact, I charge as much as $3,500 or $4,000 to do a labor market impact assessment for employers who hire me to help navigate the process. It is a nightmare. Okay. All right. I think we are just about wrapped up. Abdi, 400 points. That's going to be too low, my friend, to qualify through the general provisions. Amy asks a question, which is a good one, about company benefits. Is it necessary to list them precisely? Just mentioning plus regular or standard company benefits is just fine. You don't need to list in specific detail all the benefits. If you can just say your salary is, $70,000 Canadian plus you receive standard company benefits, that's fine. Shylock says, how do I book a consult? Click on the link that is posted right there, right below your contact, your information. Thank you, Stephanie. Look at that. She's rocking it. Okay. Mirza says, thanks a lot for clearing my point. You're very welcome, Mirza. And Samrat, thanks and have a nice evening. You bet, guys. Moses says, how easy for a skilled worker to get a job in Canada? Not easy right now, my friend. And then Shai says, yeah, the CRS trends are going up. Yad, how's it going? Amy says, thanks so much. Abdi, you need to book a consult if you want to explore all the options that you might have available to you. And Bueller says, how about self-employed? Is it difficult? Yes, self-employed actually is. And I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I'll give you just a quick little bit of overtime here, Mueller, because you asked a question and then I'm going to leave. Yours will be the last one that I answer. And probably those who are waiting to see, what is Mark going to say about self-employed work experience? I forgot that I never covered it. So Wheeler, I'm going to address it specifically for you, my friend. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go back to the comprehensive, the completeness check site. So once you go to the proof of work experience on the completeness check policy site, you will see here that the government does provide some instructions if you're self-employed. Okay, so this, just like the reference letter here of what you need to include, this is the focus. Okay, so think of it this way: you're self-employed, but you're still wanting to be able to prove all of these things. And where do these things come from for the reference letter? Well, they come from the actual eligibility requirements right here to claim work experience. They want to see that the position you're working in is skilled. That's why they need the job description, that you perform those duties. That's why they want the duties listed in your letter. They want to know that that it's the same position. They want to know when you worked so that they can see it was the last 10 years. They want you to list your salary and benefits to know that you're actually paid, and then the hours worked to show that you've actually met the 1 year continuous 1,560 hours. Okay. So that's the baseline for everything, is proving this, whether it's regular work, whether it's self-employed. And remember, self-employed work experience works for the purposes of anything outside, but self-employed work experience doesn't work for the Canadian experience class right here. Okay, so outside. So so as you're going through this, and we jump back to this page, there's the instructions right here for self-employed. You need to prove that you actually have a business. So articles of incorporation or other evidence of business ownership, I would direct them back to your company website. Anything online is great. So that's a perfect site. But the actual, if it's a registered company, then those articles of incorporation showing that it's an actual living entity, it is a business that exists. Then that you are the shareholder, that you own it. Then that you're actually making money, right? Evidence of self-employed income. Well, you got to think about all the different ways. How can you prove income? And I could have made a list of different things, and maybe I'll cover this specifically in a different video. But self-employed income, how do you get paid from your customers? Do you have invoices that you've sent out? Do you have your taxes that you provide to the government that you file from your business? Do you have receipts that you provide your clients for whatever service or good that you sell? And you can see here, documentation from third-party individuals. These are your clients, whatever they may be, indicating what you did for them and how they paid you. So you can see how this all fits in. It's always difficult proving your job description when you're self-employed, but to a large extent, because you're the owner, and if you can provide all these other things, like if I'm a dentist, I'm going to have a registration as a dentist. I'm going to have maybe a website that shows me smiling, waving, on my website that this is my professional practice. And so there's all kinds of things. There's presences out there, but it varies so much with everyone out there. Each situation is different, that they're really, like a consultation is how I deal with it with clients, because there's too many different things to factor in to just give one blanket answer. This is what you need to do. But the key is you have to prove these things. And then finally, you'll see right here, this is the most important: self-declared main duties or affidavits are not acceptable proof of self-employed work experience. That's where evidence right here indicating the service provided helps to replace the job duties right here that would traditionally be in the reference letter. Whew, this was a long one. Hopefully all of this information that I shared today, and let's just see if I can even pull it up here. Work history was the topic that we covered today. I hope that this was beneficial. As always, and I'm not even sure if I have it here. I've got so many of these pop-ups that I've done over the years. Let's see if I can, oh, there it is. We'll put this over here. It's always the Express Entry Complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself is the reason that I can do this. And for many of you who had questions, guys, all of this is answered within that guide. That's why I created it. So if you didn't get your question answered, or haven't been able to do it, or you're just tired of wasting hundreds of hours on the internet accessing helpful information from people who have done it themselves and claim they're the experts, well, sure, you can roll the dice and take your chances. You guys see where the comprehensive ranking system, the rounds of invitations is going. It's going up. So if you're willing to take a chance and, hey, you're sitting at about 480 points, then go for it. You can probably afford to get it rejected a couple times before you get it right. But for the rest of you, which is 99% of you, I can never figure out why. You just trust whatever information you read on the internet. The guide was designed specifically to walk you through, to help you avoid all of the difficult aspects of it, and to avoid all of the most common areas where people commonly make mistakes. Does it cover every single possible thing that any person out there in the world could have an issue? No, it doesn't. That would be impossible. But I sure struggle to try to make it happen. So just as that one last little reminder, I'll show you guys those who've stuck around here long enough to the end. And I love doing this at the end because it rewards people who've stayed. The 60% off has come to an end. It has. But for those of you who actually watch this through to the end, this is your reward. Well, actually, I jumped ahead of myself here. Let's go back here. If you click in Enroll in Course and you click on One-Time Purchase Lifetime Access, I am still keeping open. If you add coupon code right here, EEDIY 50%, and you type it, actually, I'll capitalize it so you guys can see it a little bit easier. It's EEDIY 50% sign. I'll make it a little bit larger right there. And you apply, guess what happens? Yeah, you get 50% off. So this is a reward for the people who contribute, who are a part of this, who do everything just to help make these live sessions good. And really, they wouldn't be what they are if it wasn't for all you guys who come in and watch. So thanks for joining me. It was another awesome EE Live Q&A. I'm going to pull this up and I'll show you right here. You guys can see the next one is May the 10th, which is education history. So it's all about education, questions that you have. It's on the 10th, which is a little bit different because I have, let me just see, make sure I've got this right here. Next week, yes, May 10th is the Friday. So the reason, let's see here, I think I deleted it. There it is. May 10th is it's a special day. It's Friday, and Friday is going to be at noon Mountain Standard Time, okay? The reason that it's Friday is because I am going to be in Ottawa next week. I leave on Monday, and as a table officer, I'm currently serving as the secretary in the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. I will be traveling to Ottawa for meetings with the government officials, and we meet with the Canada Border Service Agency, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, and we represent the interests of you, as well as the other members of the Canadian Bar Association, who really are all your representatives as well. We advocate for your behalf. We discuss issues that we're seeing that are affecting our clients, which are you. And the whole purpose, guess how much I get paid. Actually, those of you who are watching, I want you to post in the comments how much you think I get paid to be a table officer on the Canadian Bar Association's National Immigration Section. So remember, there's 5 of us: secretary, treasurer, vice chair, chair, and past chair. There's 5 of us currently serving. Guess how much we get paid as lawyers to serve in these prestigious positions. Just guess. I want you to post a comment below if you're still watching, how much you think Mark gets paid to serve as a table officer on the immigration executive of the Canadian Bar Association. That's the question I have for you. And remember, I'm going to be gone all week next week attending these meetings. So anybody guess. Anybody. If someone can guess it, do you know what? I'll give you a free consult. 25-minute consult free. If you can guess how much I get paid. So I'll even leave it open. There's a few people here. So those of you who are still tuned in and are listening and are watching and paying attention, if you can guess how much I get paid. Moses, says 5,000 per sitting. Okay, good guess. Amy says 10K annually. That sounds fair too. That's fair. Any other guesses? Stella says about 10,000. I add about 40K a year. All of those makes perfect sense. But Tafa, you won right there. Tafadzwa Garufu, he wins. And guess what he said? 0, none, not a dime. My expenses to fly out there are covered by the Canadian Bar Association. But this is entirely volunteer. We do this because we care. We do this to advocate on behalf of you. And so this is how I'm wired. Am I getting paid? No. And in all honesty, my firm probably thinks I'm crazy because that's a whole week of work I could be billing, making the 3,000 that Kishan said, or the 40K. Oh my goodness, I wish it was 40K a year. That would have been awesome. Amy says 10K. Heck, I'd take 10. Moses, I'd take 5. But the reality is it is 110% voluntary. You're right, Rez. Voluntary. So Tafa was the first to indicate it. So Tafa, I'm going to reply right here, and I want you to send an email to Stephanie. Let's see if we can get Stephanie at stringham.ca, and she'll set you up with the free consult. So yeah, so that's it, guys. Like, I'm serious. Like, this is what I do. And it just drives me absolutely crazy when people in social media or whatever look at what I'm doing and are wondering, well, Mark's just like all those money grubbing lawyers. Like, that's garbage. I do this. If I wanted to be a money grubbing lawyer, I would have stayed at the national law firm I was working with in Calgary and done securities law, mergers and acquisitions, international law. Oh yeah, then I would have been making tons of money. But I do this because I care about the people I represent. I care about immigration. I'm extremely protective of my role and very proud of my role as an immigration lawyer. And I feel in many cases, the whole consultant industry waters down the quality of representation, to the point. And are there bad immigration lawyers? Yeah, there's immigration lawyers that don't put the time in to really know. That's true. But if they screw up, they're disbarred. They are fined. Their ability to practice all other areas of law that they're actually practicing in when they're not dabbling in immigration, they're jeopardized. Okay. There's protections in place. But with the consultants, there are some wonderful consultants out there. I have one working in my office, and there's some really good ones out there. But there is an unbelievable number that have no business practicing because they're not equipped with the tools to adequately represent people. And those who are just getting started are learning off of your backs. They're learning from the mistakes that they make. They're learning and saying, oh, sorry, your application got refused. And then they make a mental note. Ooh, I better not do that again. And then that's how they learn. And so, yeah, I'm super protective, and I'm proud of my profession, and it means a lot to me. And, I don't get paid. I don't. So anyways, that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Sorry about that little rant there at the end, but have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'll see you guys next Friday at noon when we talk about education. All right. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer. And people ask, what does that mean? Well, I worked on the border as one of those border officers while I was going through law school. And I worked as a volunteer once again, pro bono, with the hearings officers downtown in Calgary when I was going through law school. And that's how I got all of my, experience and my desire to practice in this area. And how long have I been practicing? Well, I started practicing roughly in about 2005 as a lawyer. And so I'm closing in on, 2005, just about 15 years. All right. Anyways, that's my story, guys. Take care. Have a wonderful evening. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off, wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call express entry. Take care. Bye.